yesterday evening about 5 p.m. Cairo time. That was the one in which they announced that they had taken the reins of power in order to safeguard the nation. We then saw this extraordinary chain of events where, in fact, Hosni Mubarak announced that he was staying on and handing over much of his power to his vice president, Omar Suleiman, a man almost as hated as he is here in Cairo. And we wanted to hear very much, or the protesters in Tahrir Square were waiting to hear what the army had to say about everything that had happened. Would it indeed back what Hosni Mubarak had to say? Well, in the end, what we've just heard on Egyptian state television is that it backs him, and very much so, going so far as to make itself a sort of guarantor of his reforms. Mention was made of very much hated emergency laws that have been in place here since 1981, when Hosni Mubarak took power, and which give police almost unlimited powers of detention. They announced, as Hosni Mubarak had last night in his speech, that steps would be taken towards the lifting of that emergency law once the situation allowed for it to be lifted. Now, clearly, this is not going to satisfy those crowds in Tahrir Square. They want to see Hosni Mubarak go, they want to see Omar Suleiman go, and they want to see that dreaded emergency law go. In fact, they've had none of that, and what they will be learning just about now as their prayer comes to an end is that, in fact, the army has come down on the side of the regime.
So could we, in fact, see a mood change this Friday once prayers are over and people hear what the army has had to say? They'll obviously descend into Tahrir Square as well, and we could see some quite significant changes, perhaps.
Well, already it's almost palpable, the change that's happened until now. There were days on which the protests in Tahrir Square felt a little bit like Glastonbury. As I say, many women, many children, this extraordinary atmosphere with this very well-policed crowd, with this peep. There were volunteers who came to clear out the rubbish. There were volunteers who gave out the tea. There were volunteers who distributed the sandwiches. Today we're seeing this almost peaceful, happy protest turn into a very angry mob. And the fact that they now are learning that the army is in fact backing what Hosni Mubarak had to tell them yesterday will only upset them further. Interesting, though, however, that the army didn't go so far as to suggest a crackdown. In fact, it's interesting that it chose to make the headline of what it had to say the repeal of that emergency law. So although it's very much come down on the side of Hosni Mubarak, almost repeating word for word what he had to say, offering to back his reforms, offering to guarantee his reforms, it still began by trying to come down to go towards the protesters by talking about these hated emergency laws. So the army still trying to maintain some sort of neutrality there, still trying to show that it's on the side of the people. And yet, what we now know is that Hosni Mubarak remains president. Much of the power is now in the hands of the hated vice president, Omar Suleiman, and the army is going to back them up.
OK, Melissa Bell in Cairo, thank you very much indeed for now. Well, a short time ago, I spoke to Philip Golub, who's a professor of international relations at Paris 8 University. I asked him what had changed now within the army.